Hey there, thank you so much for joining us on this Labor Day. I'm Veronica Cruz. Great to see you today. Here are the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
It's horrible. Everything is wet, everything is muddy, but all of our spirits are really high.
It rained quite a bit for the desert and created a very mucky, muddy, terrible environment where you could barely walk. Vehicles made it impassable, and the whole festival and the 70-ish thousand people out here just had to stay put.
If there's anything your state needs, I'm ready to mobilize that support.
Help us, please, as much as you can. My poor babies, all they say is, "Mommy, I'm hot." They cry for water, ice, everything.
Folks, in this Labor Day, let me tell you what we're celebrating. We're celebrating jobs, good-paying jobs, jobs you can raise a family on, union jobs. Nearly 13,500,000 jobs just since you got me sworn in January of 2020.
Welcome to Scripps News Live. We begin this hour in Philadelphia with President Biden addressing the nation after attending the annual Tri-State Labor Day Parade. The president touting his Bidenomics plan and the importance of unions in the United States. Philadelphia has been a hot spot for the president. This is his 7th time visiting the city of brotherly love this year. White House correspondent Haley Bull joining us now live from Washington. Haley, good to see you. So what were your thoughts today? What were your biggest takeaways from the president's remarks?
Hey, good afternoon, Veronica. President Biden is fully embracing his reputation as a pro-union, pro-worker president. And in those remarks today, he highlighted his support for union workers as well as his broader economic agenda. Now, while Biden has looked to sell Americans on the plan that's focused largely on the middle class, he has frequently stressed the importance of unions in that plan and underscored support for workers organizing. In his remarks today, he highlighted job growth and creation, boosting domestic manufacturing, as well as steps aimed at protecting workers under his administration's plan. For example, last week, the Labor Department proposing a rule to expand the overtime salary threshold. Now, remember, these remarks come on the heels of a strong jobs report for the White House last week that showed more job creation, as well as more people looking to join the workforce. And that is something Biden certainly took note of today. Listen.
And we are making it a reality. Nearly 13,500,000 jobs just since you got me sworn in January of 2020. 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But you wouldn't know from all the negative news you hear. But we're getting through this, one of the greatest job creation periods in American history. For real, that's a fact.
And a particular area of note in his remarks today, Biden drawing a sharp contrast between progress under his administration and his predecessor, former President Donald Trump, taking that criticism a bit further in these remarks. Now, while Biden continues to face challenges in polls when it comes to his handling of the economy and inflation, something Republicans really seize on, recent polling also shows strong approval for unions. For example, a recent AFL-CIO poll found the majority of respondents supported them. While that number was higher among Democrats, it was still substantial among Republicans. And that's really key when we look at some of the Rust Belt swing states, including Pennsylvania. Biden travels to Philadelphia quite often. But also keep in mind, in the backdrop of all of this, Veronica, you have the ongoing strikes in Hollywood, as well as an approaching contract deadline between the United Auto Workers and the big three automakers, of which Biden has weighed in, saying he feels the UAW deserves a, quote, contract that sustains the middle class. Veronica?
It really has felt like the summer of the strike. Haley Bull reporting live from Washington. Haley, thank you so much. So in the meantime, the president toured areas of Florida hit hardest by Hurricane Idalia Saturday. He visited some neighborhoods in the midst of the cleanup and met with Florida Senator Rick Scott. He also took an aerial tour over the city of Live Oak. While it's customary for governors of disaster-ridden states to meet with the president, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis decided against it. According to the governor's schedule, he was touring communities along the Gulf Coast on his own. Forrest Saunders with Scripps News Tampa Bay shares what residents say that they need the most.
At this Live Oak aid station, the cars keep coming for supplies days after Idalia hit.
Red tent. Go to the red tent.
Officials handing out tarps, water, and ice.
Here you go. Here you go. Run.
As residents suffer, some still without power.
But I've been through some storms and it seems like they're getting stronger. Yes. I don't know if it's because of climate change, but this one was bad.
Bad enough to bring out the President of the United States, who Saturday surveyed parts of Florida's Big Bend from the air and on the ground.
If there's anything your state needs, I'm ready to mobilize that support. Anything they need related to these storms.
President Joe Biden promised to keep the federal aid flowing, approving 6 more major disaster declarations for Florida counties. Biden also said he wasn't disappointed Florida's governor was absent.
Well, no, I'm not disappointed. He may have had other reasons. He came, talked about to me and to you all about what an incredible job the federal government was doing, and I found that reassuring.
Meanwhile, assistance is desperately needed for people like Gina Nardiello and her family of 8.
Help us, please, as much as you can.
Her message to the White House: hurry.
My poor babies. All they say is, "Mommy, I'm hot." They cry for water, ice, everything.
Others, like Doug Nitubish, have concerns, wondering if the federal government will deliver.
Well, I hope they don't try to recover us like they did Maui. You know, I'm kind of scared because of the damage done to my house, even going to FEMA, see if I can recover any money.
The money may hinge on whether Congress backs the Biden administration's call for $16 billion to refill FEMA's disaster relief fund. Recent storms, flooding, and fires across the country have drained that pot of its dollars, which do include help for disaster victims.
By FEMA being a great partner and the federal government being a great partner is a big deal.
Republicans like Florida's Rick Scott, who joined the president Saturday, have said they'll support the top-up, but only if it's not tied to Ukrainian aid. Which suggests, as Floridians recover from Idalia, a political storm is brewing in D.C. Forrest.
Flash flooding struck parts of Las Vegas this weekend. A storm chaser captured this video of a bus stranded on Lake Mead Boulevard and a whirlpool forming near I-15. The interstate was closed in both directions for 7 hours before those lanes were reopened again. Wow, quite a mess out there. In the meantime, event organizers may allow the more than 70,000 attendants of this year's Burning Man Festival to leave. They have been stranded in the desert since Saturday. Heavy rain over the weekend turned the festival into a giant mud pit. Authorities were forced to close access to the event Saturday and told partygoers to shelter in place and conserve food. National correspondent Vanessa Mashania has been monitoring the situation for us and joins us now live from Seattle. Vanessa, any word yet on when folks are finally going to be allowed to go home?
Hey, good afternoon. Yes, so there is some good news. The gate road isn't quite open yet. However, around noon, concert officials say that that's when, hopefully, if it continues to still dry out, people can start leaving the festival grounds after a few days of just really terrible conditions. Certainly nothing that anyone there signed up for. You know, rain was forecasted overnight, but there's clear skies there right now. Hopefully this will continue to dry up. This, of course, after Friday, Saturday, you know, the area, Black Rock City, that's about 100 miles north of Reno, just got downpoured on. They experienced 3 months worth of rain in just a 24-hour period from Friday into Saturday. And that left, so the concert grounds, it's called the Playa. It's in a desert, but it was formerly lots and lots and lots of years ago, it used to be a lake. So all the ground on that playa is actually clay. So that's why you're seeing these images of people just caked in mud. Folks had to walk around with plastic bags. On Saturday, officials told those 72,000 concert goers to shelter in place, as well as to conserve as much water and food as possible. Again, you just see those pictures of mud-logged camps and also those tire treads, right? Those thick tire treads. So that's the fear that
those cars would ruin the grounds and make it even harder to leave when folks eventually do. So this is a week-long festival, and it's not your typical music festival. People, they bring everything they need to survive: their food, their water, their shelter, everything. So as far as festivals go, concert goers were pretty prepared, maybe more than most festivals, to kind of ride this out. I was looking over some interviews of folks there, and really there's still a sense of community and helping one another out. That's kind of the principles of this festival, this art festival. That has gotten increasingly popular over the years since celebrities, more and more of them, started to attend this festival. It was supposed to wrap up yesterday, but today is really the end day of the festival. They're going to have their trademark event, the burning of the effigies, this very tall wooden sculpture of a man. That's usually the culmination of the end of the festival. That's going to happen later tonight. So really, these concert goers have been waiting on word about when they might be able to leave those grounds. Even before that, folks were hiking about 6 miles to the road, despite calls to stay and shelter in place. So it's really just been a mess there. So being able to hopefully leave at noon, that's the word right now. Currently, it's still a little bit too muddy, but with this good weather, hopefully by noon, folks can start heading out and go back to their regular lives after this unprecedented situation there, Maritza.
All right, Vanessa Machado live in Seattle. Vanessa, thank you. And you can take a deeper dive on this story and a whole lot more online. Feel free to check us out on scripsnews.com, also on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, we are now less than a month away from the official start of flu season, but health experts want you to get your flu shot now. We're going to explain how one major research project is aiming to figure out how the virus spreads.
I think the pandemic has really brought greater attention to this type of research and the need for it.
And a quick reminder, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News Bureau hotline. The number's on your screen right now. You can call us toll free. It's 1-833-4SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. We'll be right back.
My name is Dr. Joseph Purita. Before I would ever give a product to a patient, I tried on myself. So I started taking Super Beets and I said, wow, Super Beets is a game changer.
Super Beets is the #1 doctor-recommended beet brand for cardiovascular health support. Inspired by the Nobel Prize-winning discovery of nitric oxide for its important role in regulating cardiovascular health, Super Beets superfoods make doing more to support your nitric oxide production simple. Superfoods like our Super Beets crystals or our heart chews with clinically studied grapeseed extract to help promote normal blood pressure nearly 2 times more effectively than a healthy lifestyle alone.
Super Beets is doing a whole bunch of things at once. It helps dilate blood vessels. It helps increase my circulation. It's having a beneficial effect on my heart and my energy. It makes me healthier.
Once you have that support, you just feel better. You feel like you can take the stairs, you can cook that Sunday meal, you can get things done.
You can feel the difference. Super Beets helps me with all these aspects of good circulation. It's given me the energy that I want, the blood pressure support that I need. It's a win-win.
See why we've earned over 60,000 5-star ratings and reviews, and why over 120 pro and college sports teams have put our beet crystals to the test.
My mom always used to say, eat your beets, it's good for you. Boy, was she right.
Call now or visit superbeetsdeal.com to find out how you can get a 30-day supply of your choice of Super Beets absolutely free with your first order. That's a free 30 days of crystals or a free 30 days of heart chews. Shipping is free, but that's not all. Call now, and for a limited time, see how you can get a free travel pack of our unique memory and focus chews for brain health support. This offer is not available in stores and comes backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee, so call now.
Visit superbeetsdeal.com for this exclusive offer or call 1-800-897-1752. That's 1-800-897-1752.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. For over a century, we've guaranteed the highest quality in everything we offer. To celebrate, we're offering you 50% off site-wide. That means you'll save 50% and get our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. Never tried Omaha Steaks? Save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
Well, it's still early, but the latest COVID mutation may not be as contagious as originally feared. The variant, known by the nickname Parola, first surfaced in late July. Right away, scientists sounded the alarm, and that's because of how different Parola is from previous strains. Like Omicron before it, Parola represents a genetic leap, but unlike Omicron, it might not be as deadly or as infectious. Lab tests out of China and Sweden show Parola appears to be a milder strain, but further testing is needed to be sure. And we are less than 1 month away now from flu season, but doctors are urging people to get their flu shots now. The season typically runs from October to May and then peaks in the winter. According to the World Health Organization, the flu leads to 3 to 5 million cases of severe illness across the globe. But there is some mystery surrounding how the flu spreads. National correspondent Maya Rodriguez spotlights a major research project that's been looking for answers.
There are still a lot of unanswered questions about how exactly the flu spreads. Now, a group of researchers from across the country are working together to try and figure that out in the hopes of stopping the flu in its tracks. In the controlled setting of this lab, scientists are zeroing in on what makes the flu tick.
I think the pandemic has really brought greater attention to this type of research and the need for it.
Lindsay Marr of Virginia Tech is the project director of Mitigate Flu. It's an $8.8 million nationwide project involving multiple universities, all working to get a definitive answer as to how the flu spreads.
Conventional wisdom about the flu is that it's transmitted when people cough or sneeze in your face, and it's these large wet droplets that carry the virus. It lands on you and you get the flu. But it turns out there's not a lot of direct evidence that supports that idea. Will that work?
So researchers set out to see what might actually be happening when the flu starts to circulate in a community, including looking at how well masks may be able to mitigate its spread.
What's new about this research is that we're bringing a really interdisciplinary approach to it. It's not just medical doctors, it's virologists, it's engineers who understand how viruses can move around in the environment, in the air, and on surfaces.
Researchers say one possibility is that the flu is actually transmitted not just by large wet droplets, but by fine particles that can remain suspended in the air for a long time.
People get the flu when they're close to others who are infected, and I think we didn't realize that, oh, maybe people are also getting it when they're at a distance and they're just sharing air in the same room.
Doctors say that's why it's critical to make sure as many people as possible get the flu vaccine every year, which they say could have added benefits.
It's kind of like just keeping your immune system at its best and peak condition. So another good reason to get your yearly flu shot, because it might reduce those common respiratory infections.
Is it just pure water?
Back at the Mitigate Flu Project, whatever the findings end up showing could potentially be used to bring about structural changes to how indoor air is handled in buildings, something that got a lot of attention during the pandemic.
We kind of accept respiratory diseases right now, like colds and flu, as a way of life, but maybe we don't have to. Maybe if we do start paying more attention to cleaning our indoor air, we could really reduce the burden that places on our health and society.
So that everyone can breathe easier. Maya Rodriguez, Scripps News, Blacksburg, Virginia.
And that was Maya Rodriguez reporting there for us. Recent CDC data shows most states are currently seeing minimal flu cases. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, a fine arts fair for Black artists is spotlighting art, supporting creatives, and keeping important discourse alive. Plus this.
I'm Chris Conti with a closer look at why Americans who have tried to move away from the impacts of climate change are finding out there are few places safe anymore. Did you think coming to New Hampshire that you'd still be dealing with wildfire smoke?
No, we really didn't. What an eye-opener. I mean, certainly the bottom line is you can't escape climate change, right?
Why more Americans are feeling the impacts of climate change, and why so many are thinking of relocating.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek, frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Female hair thinning is so common. That's where hers comes in. You can take their free hair quiz, provide some info about your health history, and a medical provider can recommend a personalized treatment plan just for you. Take the hair quiz today at forhers.com.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs and snap on any top to create an infinite number of looks. All of our glasses are anti-glare, scratch resistant, and every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
This stuff is a miracle. It took us 60 prototypes. Wow. When we made this stuff, it grew into the #1 dermatologist recommended sweat brand for all over the body. When people say this is the first thing I've tried that stopped my sweat, that makes my day. We have a sweat quiz that'll customize the products for you based on where you sweat, based on how much you sweat. Free shipping, money back guarantee. There's really no risk to giving it a try. If you had a sweaty face or sweaty underarms or sweaty hands, that's really why we made Carpe.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-570-3208, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-570-3208, 800-570-3208.
Sunday nights on In Real Life.
For the baby?
Yeah!
Scripps News journalists take you off the grid.
We were just a bunch of kids with a camera.
Stunts have become more specialized.
And to the heart of the story.
When the pandemic hit, the American dream kind of changed.
There were a lot of warning signs. They just didn't care.
In Real Life, Sunday at 8, 7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. So it is the summer of the strike, and the Actors Union may greenlight a second walkout, this time against major video game companies. SAG-AFTRA will be seeking authorization from its members to strike ahead of negotiations scheduled to resume later this month. The union is asking for an 11% retroactive pay increase for its video game performers. It says video game companies are offering nominal pay increases that don't keep up with inflation. The union is already on strike against major TV and film companies. In an industry where many creators are making little money, there's also a lack of diverse representation. But during the long Labor Day weekend, one company is on a mission to transform the meaning of fine art for Black creators. National correspondent Amber Strong has the details.
Step inside a world designed for creatives.
Every corner that you turn, there's a creative doing something.
Where the art and artist are appreciated.
I see this as a very tight artistic community. The fact that everyone supports one another.
The team behind Butter, a fine art fair spotlighting Black artists, began transforming this century-old car factory in Indianapolis months ago.
This is the exhibition floor, and so it's separate from kind of the other experiences throughout the building.
But the inspiration for butter, slang for something enjoyable, began after the murder of George Floyd, when husband and wife team Molly and Alan Bacon began looking for ways to give Black artists a permanent platform.
If everything 2020 was about what separates people, it's culture and art that brings people together.
3 years later, the Bacons say the annual event is doing just that, attracting visitors from across the country, celebrities, and more than 50 artists this year.
When you look at the art around, what you see is expression, what you see is feelings, emotion, all of that, and how they're able to take that and basically put it on canvas.
There was something called the Chitlin Circuit that was in existence between 1930 to 1960, before desegregation. And Indianapolis was one of those spots where Black artists were able to sustain themselves. So we're doing it again.
Praised by artists and the media alike, Gang Gang, the team behind Butter, have managed to do something others have not. And that's keep the conversation on race, diversity, and equity alive well beyond 2020. Research from LinkedIn, the social media business and employment platform, shows roles for chief diversity and inclusion officers in companies declined 4.5% in 2022. And the anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion movement has spread from businesses to politics, with the state of Florida defunding DEI programs at publicly funded colleges and getting rid of DEI efforts at Disney World.
That's why we had the sense of urgency then to act now and to figure out something, again, that would be galvanizing, attractive, and sustainable, that would last beyond this DEI moment. And what is that? It's art. It always has been, and it always will be.
The Bacons say since the event started 2 years ago, they've garnered nearly $500,000 in sales, with the profits going directly to the artist. And as the support grows, so does the vision.
There are many artists in Indianapolis right now that recognizes the Renaissance period that we're in right now, and the window is very small. And our artists are dreaming. The city is in a dreadful place when their artists aren't dreaming.
Taking the art and artists far beyond a mere splash on a canvas to a permanent place on the walls of history. Amber Strong, Scripps News, Indianapolis.
It is just so cool. I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for being with us today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online at scripsnews.com. Now, if you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way on Scripps News Live, including Americans who've tried to move away from the impact of climate change, finding out that there are few places to go. Plus this.
I'm Joe St. George of the Drug Enforcement Administration in Washington. How long will the DEA take to review whether or not cannabis should remain a Schedule I drug in our country? How might it impact marijuana laws in your state? We explain next.
Introducing the world's smartest fence. Halo Collar is a virtual fence inside a collar. Easily create Halo fences right in the app, virtually anywhere. Teach them to keep away from danger and come back to safety. Give your dog the freedom of a life off leash, so they can roam wherever you go. It's a whole new world for you and your dog.
Get the new Halo Color 3 today.
Tired of wasting your money on products that just don't work? We don't blame you. That's why Nugenix Total T lets you try before you buy. Just text BONUS to 369-369 to claim your complimentary sample. Why have millions of men already trusted Nugenix for a man-boosting increase in their testosterone levels? Well, it's a patented formula, so nothing else is like it. It contains testofen, a patented key ingredient shown to work in not one, not two, but 4 clinical studies. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand, and it's #1 at GNC
Aldi, and Walmart. But don't take our word for it. Prove it to yourself. Try before you buy. If it works, keep using it. If not, keep the sample and tell all your friends we're full of it. You've got nothing to lose, but you could gain energy, muscle, drive, even more passion. Text BONUS to 369-369. Do it now and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text BONUS to 369-369.
False or misleading search results can negatively impact your life. A bad online reputation can put you at significant risk of losing job opportunities or new customers. Reputation Defender helps clean up your search results, wiping away negative first impressions, allowing truthful, positive content to rise to the top. Don't you deserve to have more control over how you're represented online? Get your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 1-877-866-8555.
Hurricane Idalia, the Maui wildfires, and flooding in Vermont. Just a few of the disasters this country experienced this summer. Experts say climate change is the reason natural disasters are becoming more frequent and more severe. And now they're predicting climate change will directly impact about 165 million people in this country in the coming decades. Scripps News correspondent Chris Conti shows us how the current environmental conditions have already pushed some Americans to leave their home state.
More than 40% of people in this country live in counties impacted by climate disasters. More Americans have tried to move away from the impacts of climate change, but they're finding out not many places are safe anymore.
Oh, well, it's a beautiful setting.
An exceptionally pristine summer day.
Have been cracking on the vine.
The kind Judith Somm has been waiting for this year.
Just too much rainfall.
She's tried her best to keep her garden in Rumney, New Hampshire growing. The rain hasn't quit. It's not that Judith doesn't appreciate the beauty of the White Mountains here, but there is someplace else that Judith and her husband Doug once called home.
I mean, loved it. I mean, really, I love the Sierras.
Reno calls itself Art Town now.
We first met the Somms in 2021. They had just moved to New Hampshire from Reno, Nevada to escape the growing threat of wildfires.
We plant these to kind of shade out the chard.
But this couple, both in their 70s, are now finding out that hardly any place in this country is safe from the impacts of climate change. Did you think coming to New Hampshire that you'd still be dealing with wildfire smoke?
No, we really didn't. What an eye-opener. I mean, certainly the bottom line is you can't escape climate change, right?
Over the summer, New Hampshire, like many states, was plagued with wildfire smoke from Canada. Then in July, devastating flash flooding hit this part of the country, leaving the Somms to wonder. No place is really safe anymore.
Well, it's frightening. You know, I think it's frightening.
It's like those recurring nightmares where you get out of one jam and then you turn around and there's a worse jam.
Every person is going to have to deal with the effect of climate change in one way or another and adapt to it.
That is James Shope with Rutgers Climate Institute. He foresees more Americans taking events like major flooding into consideration when relocating.
Every part of the country has its own unique challenges when it comes to climate change. The simple fact of the matter is it doesn't matter where you live, you're going to be facing some consequence of it.
By some estimates, close to 162 million people in the U.S. will experience a decline in their environment over the coming decades, from rising sea levels to fires to droughts. According to the UN, each year natural disasters force an average of 21.5 million people from their homes around the world. Many, though, just don't have the income or means to relocate.
When we first moved here and I was talking about climate change, my network of friends here said you need to tone it down. Now they're talking about it now, you know.
As for the Somms, they've taken steps over the years to make their home more sustainable. preserving rainwater, installing solar panels on their roof.
Is this a moment for more Americans to just look and say, something is happening?
Somebody better wake up really fast.
Because they know firsthand that a changing climate is prompting Americans to move just so they can live. Chris Conti, Scripps News, Rumney, New Hampshire.
Well, the Department of Health and Human Services is recommending loosening restrictions on marijuana, but the final decision will come from the Drug Enforcement Administration. Deputy Political Director Joe St. George takes a closer look at how long the process might take and what the implications of reclassifying marijuana could be.
The federal government first classified cannabis marijuana as a Schedule I drug back in 1970 with the Controlled Substances Act. For years, it sat alongside heroin in our country as a Schedule I drug under federal law. Well, now the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, has a big decision to make. Do they keep cannabis as a Schedule I drug, or do they change it, impacting marijuana laws from coast to coast? The decision now in the hands of an agency that has been here before. In 2016, during the Obama administration, the DEA wrote this letter to two governors seeking to reclassify the drug. Marijuana will remain a Schedule I controlled substance, the agency wrote at the time. Of course, a lot has changed in the last 7 years. 23 states have now legalized it for recreational use. Minnesota, the latest, earlier this year.
It's certainly a big deal that a federal agency is finally admitting that cannabis does not belong on Schedule I of the Controlled Substances Act.
Morgan Fox is the political director of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. He says the fact that last week the Department of Health and Human Services recommended to the DEA a change is significant, but the recommendation it become a Schedule III drug doesn't exactly do a lot for cannabis users.
It would not have any sizable impact on the criminal justice aspects of prohibition.
Fox says the biggest impact would likely be on cannabis business owners who may be eligible for more tax breaks and perhaps some researchers. But the schedule switch would still make it illegal at the federal level. Fox says there remains big questions if the DEA will even go through with the classification change. After all, the agency has rejected it before, and it's why he believes Congress needs to step in.
The DEA could very well take their time on this, and historically they have taken years.
Is there frustration in the cannabis community directed at the Biden administration for how slow this is all taking?
We'd obviously like to see things moving a lot faster.
We did reach out to the DEA for perspective on how long their review might take. Officials got back to us saying that the process is beginning now and that they have nothing further to share. At the White House, the Biden administration not putting any pressure on the DEA publicly to act.
Going to be an independent process. They're going to certainly use the evidence.
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow is open to discussions about allowing Ukraine's grain to come to market. Putin is meeting with Turkish President Erdogan for day-long talks today in Sochi. Russia withdrew from the grain agreement in July, claiming its own exports faced obstacles. Putin has said that Russia could return to the deal if the West agrees to facilitate Russian food and fertilizer exports. The United Nations considers Ukrainian grain as a vital part of the global food supply. And in China, President Xi Jinping apparently skipping the Group of 20 summit in India this week. It is the latest sign of strained relations between the two countries. China's premier will attend the gathering instead. Tensions have been escalating over China and India's disputed border. A deadly clash 3 years ago has turned into a lengthy standoff in the area. More recent strains have come up over trade and India's strategic ties with the United States. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, one Ohio man gets to live out a childhood dream by restoring and reconstructing a 1929 Ford Tri-Motor airplane. How his labor of love will not only preserve history, but gift others something special.
When we're done with this airplane,
boy, we're almost there.
We will operate the airplane, giving living history rides. I kind of feel like if we don't do this now, it'll never be done. And there's a romantic and cool history that needs to be preserved.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500? What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she going to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
Time to get up, sweetie.
Most people might not think much about all the little things they do every day. But for me, just being able to do those little things is the best part of my day. Ready, Mom? It hasn't been easy, but sometimes the hardest things in life have the best rewards. And it's all because of my amazing friends at the Shriners Hospitals for Children and people like you who support them every month. When you call the number on your screen and just give $19 a month, you'll be helping other kids like me do the amazing things that make up the best part of our day. Because Shriners Hospital is more than just a hospital. It's when my back is better, where my legs get stronger, where I get to be a kid, where it's the best part of my day.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you.
Please, go online to loveshriners.org right now, on your phone or computer, to send your love to the rescue today. Will you send your love to the rescue today? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving. Because at Shriners Hospitals for Children, going to the hospital is like going to see family. It really is the best part of my day. Please, call or go online right now to give. If operators are busy, please wait patiently or go to loveshriners.org right away. Your gift will help kids just like me have the best part of our day.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush.
Get the stories that will shape each day,
Definitely a lot of folks talking about this.
so you can get on with yours. Morning Rush, weekday mornings starting at 7, 6 Central, only on Scripps News.
Well, the former lead singer of the group Smash Mouth has passed away at the age of 56. The band's manager said that Steve Harwell passed away in his home while in hospice care. He was the co-founder of Smash Mouth and was its lead singer until he retired in 2021. The group continues to perform with a new vocalist. Smash Mouth is known for the songs All Star, I'm a Believer, and Walking on the Sun.
Cheeseburger in paradise. Heaven on earth with an onion slice. Not too particular, not too precise. I'm just a cheeseburger in paradise.
Well, his songs were the soundtrack on the road to paradise. Singer, songwriter, and entrepreneur Jimmy Buffett died on Friday at the age of 76. And to say that he lived a laid-back and successful life might be an understatement. Our Alexa Liaco takes a look back at his life and legacy.
Smell those shrimp, here beginning to boil.
There are few songs that can bring everyone to one place, but Jimmy Buffett sure had a way of transporting us all to sandy shores.
Ruby tells the waitress that his chicken died.
This is a guy that has said so much to so many generations, really, through his music.
Veteran Atlanta radio host Steve Craig has been playing Buffett's hits for decades.
I think he is the most underrated lyricist of our times. They could make you smile for 1 second, and then you'd be crying like a baby the next.
Buffett's iconic songs Margaritaville and It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere celebrate slowing down, but his music helped him build up a billion-dollar empire of restaurants, resorts, and frozen drinks.
Very intelligent man. He knows that in the music industry, you have maybe, if you're lucky, 10 years of good, solid, top 10 popularity. And it's what you do during that time period with your songs and with the money that you make is going to continue your legacy.
Buffett's family put out a statement Friday saying he passed away at 76 years old, surrounded by his family, music, and his dogs, saying, quote, "He lived his life like a song till the very last breath and will be missed beyond measure by so many." Buffett had been fighting Merkel cell skin cancer at the time of his death, according to an updated obituary on his official website. He had the disease for 4 years and continued to perform during treatment. And from coast to coast, his loss is already being felt. Tributes are pouring in from his dedicated fan club, celebrities, and politicians. Former President Bill Clinton posted on X, formerly Twitter, "Buffett's music brought happiness to millions of people. I'll always be grateful for his kindness, generosity, and great performances through the years." And country star Kenny Chesney posted this.
Mother, Mother Ocean, I have heard you call. Wanted to say upon your waters, I was 3 feet tall.
And that spirit of heartfelt connection captured the nation, with Buffett's Margaritaville winning a spot in the Grammy Hall of Fame. He was also named at number 18 in Forbes' list of the richest celebrities of all time, with a net worth of $1 billion. But Craig says he believes the most important piece of Buffett's legacy, more than all his wealth, is what he encourages in us all.
And that's what people, I think, will always remember him as an ambassador, I think, to the places that you would always want to go, an ambassador to paradise.
That was Alexa Liaco reporting there for us. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, car theft is up significantly compared to this time last year. Now, some major U.S. cities are suing automakers for those additional costs.
You need to think of who you're hurting when you're stealing these cars, because you're stealing from working people.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
False or misleading search results can damage your life and your business. For over 15 years, Reputation Defender has been helping people clean up their search results, wiping away negative first impressions, allowing truthful, positive content to rise to the top. They can even help protect your online privacy by working to remove your personal information from data brokers that expose it. Don't you deserve to have more control over how you're represented online? Visit ReputationDefender.com or call today for your free consultation.
Tired of wasting your money on products that just don't work? We don't blame you. That's why Nugenix Total T lets you try before you buy. Just text BONUS to 369-369 to claim your complimentary sample. Why have millions of men already trusted Nugenix for a man-boosting increase in their testosterone levels? Well, it's a patented formula, so nothing else is like it. It contains testofen, a patented key ingredient shown to work in not 1, not 2, but 4 clinical studies. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand, and it's #1 at GNC and Walmart. But don't take our word for it. Prove it to yourself. Try before you buy. If it works, keep using it. If not, keep the sample and tell all your friends we're full of it. You've got nothing to lose, but you could gain energy, muscle, drive, even more passion. Text BONUS to 369-369. Do it now and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text BONUS to 369-369.
You're watching Scripps News. Streaming everywhere, totally free. Want to see more? Grab the app on your favorite streaming platform or go to scripsnews.com to find every way to watch. Go to scripsnews.com now to find out more.
So car theft is up in many places across the country, and it comes with a cost that you might not even think about. Several cities are now suing 2 automakers for the extra costs that they've been incurring. Justice correspondent Jamal Andres has the details for us.
I'm Jamal Andres for Scripps News. Car thefts are quick crimes, often in the blink of an eye. But what comes next can be long-lasting and expensive for the owners and the cities where they live. In this video, captured by a home security camera, we see what a resident says is a would-be car thief spotting his target. He makes his move, busting the back window. An accomplice climbs in. In this Baltimore case, the alarm sends the would-be thief running. But the Council on Criminal Justice says more criminals are successfully boosting cars and trucks compared to 2022. Stolen vehicles are up 1/3 in the first half of this year in 37 cities the council sampled. And it stings.
You need to think of who you're hurting when you're stealing these cars, because you're stealing from working people.
For Bill Thompson, who lives just outside of Kansas City, the damage is not just the loss of his car, but the loss of his peace of mind.
I felt unsafe in my home. I'm now looking outside all the time, and it's been devastating.
For cities across the country, car thefts also take a financial toll. Costs for police, investigations, prosecutions, and a link to jumps and other crimes. Cities including Baltimore, Cleveland, New York, and Seattle are suing automakers Hyundai and Kia, 2 popular targets for car thieves, for these extra costs. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott blaming what he calls cost-cutting measures by Hyundai and Kia for the surge, adding the situation has left residents vulnerable to more crime and, quote, significantly burdening our police resources. In Chicago, some 7,000 Kias and Hyundais were stolen in 2022. Mayor Brandon Johnson filing suit charging that negligence by the automakers has been, quote, deeply destabilizing in the Windy City. He cites stolen cars being used in crimes such as reckless driving, armed robbery, and murder.
These Hyundai and Kia models lack what's called an immobilizer. And what the immobilizer does is typically, if there's no key present in the ignition, the engine should start. But these cars did not have that immobilizer, and that's why they became much easier to break into.
These high theft cars made between 2011 and 2022 are key operated and not equipped with push button ignitions. As part of a solution, Kia and Hyundai have since released free software updates that extend the alarm sound to a minute and require a key to be in the ignition to start the car. But Carfax says nearly 5 million vehicles still need the fix, as owners ignore company notifications.
People might think it's a marketing scam. They might think it's an extended warranty offer. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Jamal Andres, Scripps News.
So a century-old airplane that has a meaningful history is being reconstructed. Bryn Castle, Scripps News Cleveland, shares how this special project, decades in the making, is a celebration of love, connection, and the inner child in all of us.
As a young kid, it's hard to not look up at the sky in awe of how planes soar. For Douglas Moore, he turned that curiosity
Did you hear that?
into a lifelong career.
I started aviation as an Air Force mechanic, mostly working with the structures of the airplane on B-52s and KC-135s in SAC, and spent 24 years doing that kind of maintenance.
Since retiring, Moore has dedicated the last 12 years of his life to this single aircraft.
And set it outside as well.
He's leading a team of volunteers in Port Clinton to reconstruct a 1929 Ford Trimotor airplane.
I'm loving this airplane because it's got so much history in the surrounding area.
Commonly known as the Tin Goose, the Ford Trimotor was the first luxury airplane in U.S. aviation history built to specifically transport people. In 1946, it carried Northeast Ohio vacationers and residents to and from Kelly's Island, Put-in-Bay, and all the islands in between. Its grandeur and modernity captured the hearts of many, like Jody Broush.
As a little boy, I remember this Ford Trimotor flying back and forth to the islands and made an indelible impression on me.
That's why Broush is helping restore the Trimotor to functionality. Once completed, he will live out a childhood dream while gifting others the same opportunity.
When we're done with this airplane,
Boy, we're almost there.
we will operate the airplane giving living history rides. I kind of feel like if we don't do this now, it'll never be done. And there's a romantic and cool history that needs to be preserved.
Once completed, this Ford Trimotor will seat 2 pilots and 11 passengers. Each seat has aisle access and access to the windows. Truly, this project has been a labor of love in more ways than just one.
So this is the teamwork aspect of it.
Part of Moore's job being chief is teaching volunteers how to physically build the plane within FAA requirements.
The requirements for the restoration is it be built exactly like the original airplane. The sets are right next to it.
So this one.
Little did Moore know, he'd also get taught a lesson in love.
And you're shooting?
It was in 2012 that started, and I met Doug there, and he showed me how to shoot in buck rivets, and apparently I did okay that
there she is.
Let me stay.
Moore and Dina spent hours attaching tin, creating the plane's outer shell over the years.
We ended up shooting a lot of rivets together and getting familiar with each other. And
I think it needs a little bit more.
Started chasing each other around for a while.
5 years later,
there you go. It ended up that because we met on this plane,
they decided to tie the knot.
We said, hey,
in the middle,
let's get married,
of the Trimotor cockpit.
It was so cool and it was so different.
Connection has always been the heart of the Trimotor's purpose, not only connecting people to places, but most importantly, to each other.
That it started out restoring an airplane, and it's really become a journey about the people.
The Trimotor Heritage Foundation is rebuilding the past to connect future generations, gifting them a piece of Ohio aviation history that otherwise could have been lost forever.
We enjoy this airplane so much. It means so much to the community. It is going to be a community airplane. We want it to be here for a long time.
Takeoff is anticipated for next summer. In Port Clinton, Bryn Caswell, Scripps News.
That is just so cool. My kid would love that. So speaking of the skies above now, India is launching its first space mission to study the sun. It comes less than 2 weeks after a successful uncrewed landing near the South Pole region of the moon. And this is video from that mission. Indian scientists are hoping to study the sun from a point that is nearly 1 million miles away from Earth. The Indian Space Research Organization is saying that the spacecraft is equipped to study several aspects of the sun, and it is scheduled to take 125 days to reach the planned location. More news from out of this world as 4 astronauts are now back on Earth after spending 6 months on the International Space Station. They splashed right into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, just after midnight. The capsule was traveling more than 17,000 miles an hour, and it used parachutes to slow its descent. During their stay, they oversaw more than 200 science and tech projects, and they handed off control of the ISS to 4 other astronauts last week. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. We'll be right back.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-570-3208, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-570-3208, 800-570-3208.
Do you have difficulty hearing your TV? Or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from Nano hearing aids. Other hearing aids are expensive and cost thousands of dollars. But if you call now, you can get 2 Nano CIC rechargeable OTC hearing aids for less than $1 a day. Don't be fooled by overpriced hearing aids ever again. The Nano CIC rechargeable hearing aid is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. And they offer superior noise reduction and a tiny in-the-ear design that is nearly invisible. And best of all, they are incredibly affordable. Call now and get 2 Nano CIC rechargeable OTC hearing aids for less than $1 a day. Plus, get a free charging dock and your shipping is always free. But that's not all. Order now and get 1 year of Elite protection with loss and theft coverage absolutely free. That's a $79 value, yours free. And all Nano hearing aids come with a 45-day money-back guarantee.
Call 1-800-450-2129. That's 1-800-450-2129.
Right now, more than 70,000 people are stranded in the Nevada desert after heavy rain turned the Burning Man Festival into a mud pit. Roads out of the festival are set to reopen today. Attendees have been stranded since Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Veronica Cruz. Always good to see you. Welcome to Scripps News Live. So concert goers were told to shelter in place and conserve food, water, and fuel after roads in and out of Black Rock Desert were closed. National correspondent Vanessa Machania has been monitoring the situation and has new details for us.
After days of wading through rain and mud, festival goers of Burning Man finally got some good news that they can begin leaving the grounds at around noon today. The rain is clearing up, weather is looking good, and the mud is beginning to really dry up and can handle cars, hopefully in a couple hours. So, you know, over the weekend from Friday to Saturday, Black Rock City, which is where the festival is, about 100 miles north of Reno, got immense rain, 3 months worth of rain in a 24-hour period. So that turned the festival grounds, which is called the Playa, which years and years and years ago was a former lake. So all that mud that you're seeing is actually clay, which is making it terribly difficult to walk or to move around. So that's why folks on Saturday were asked to shelter in place, to conserve their food and their water, and hopefully ride out this weather. Now, this is a week-long art festival that's not your typical, music festival. People, bring everything they need to survive for the 7 days. They bring their own food, they bring their own shelter. So festival goers say they felt pretty prepared, and for many, the weather really didn't seem to ruin their experience.
The 10 principles of Burning Man, one of the strongest ones, which is self-resilience, and we do it on our own. Now we are doing in the camp together. So the sense of community is beautiful out here.
So again, folks can start leaving the grounds around noon Pacific time today. They are being asked to wait till tomorrow to leave if they can. As far as the actual festival itself, festivities will be wrapping up tonight. They should have wrapped up yesterday with the burning of large wooden effigies, they call them, but that's going to happen tonight. So for many of these festival goers, it's just delaying their experience that they've waited all year for. But again, some good news for those folks at Burning Man, the 70,000 folks at Burning Man right now. Vanessa Machania, Scripps News.
Nearly 1 week after Hurricane Idalia made landfall in Florida's Big Bend, people living in some of the hardest hit areas are trying to pick up the pieces. Kendall Brandt with Scripps News Tallahassee spoke with a business owner whose business appears to be a total loss. And he says it is the kindness of neighbors and strangers that's been giving him the strength to start over again.
What can I do to help?
Some would say Scott Peters lost a lot.
One day, and all the hard work for 19 years is it's overwhelming.
This was the scene as Idelia's storm surge rushed into his business Wednesday morning. This is how it looks now. Krabby Dad's unrecognizable mud taking the place of customers.
They sit anywhere on the right of way.
Despite this setback, he is deciding to keep a positive mindset and get to work.
A lot of people thought it was a total loss, and that's not my attitude in it.
He says he's not been the only one sorting through the restaurant and clearing out debris.
A tractor he's on came willing to help. It's whatever needs to be done. Candace just came by and said, "I'm here, what can I do?"
Bartender Janet Privat, along with others, came to help Peters with cleanup.
We plan to get this place cleaned up in the next 2 days.
A place that builds community.
We all met here, I think we can all say.
That she says needs to be open for neighbors. That's why she is working on setting up a bar outside the restaurant.
Steinhatchee needs Krabby Dads right now.
And get some over there. Yeah.
Peters says support that has come from across the country and locally is overwhelming.
You always think that you kind of keep your circle small, and then when things like this happen, you don't realize how big your circle really is.
That was Kendall Brandt reporting there for us. So President Biden has renewed his support for union workers at the annual Tri-State Labor Day Parade in Philadelphia. This morning, he addressed a crowd touting the importance of unions and celebrated his administration's efforts to improve the economy. White House correspondent Haley Bull has more takeaways now from his remarks.
President Biden showcased his support of labor unions as he highlighted economic recovery and growth under his administration. While Biden has looked to sell his Bidenomics agenda, largely focused on the middle class, he's frequently stressed the importance of unions and supported workers organizing. During remarks at the Sheet Metal Workers Local Union in Philadelphia, Biden underscored manufacturing growth, union job creation, and actions to protect workers under his administration's plan, like a proposal last week to expand the overtime salary threshold. The remarks come on the heels of a strong jobs report for the White House that showed job growth and, though an uptick in unemployment, more people looking to join the workforce. He also drew a sharp contrast with former President Trump, framing progress under the Biden administration.
But we're turning things around because of you. When the last guy was here, you were shipping jobs to China. Now we're bringing jobs home from China. When the last guy was here, your pensions were at risk. We helped save millions of pensions with your help. When the last guy was here, he looked at the world from Park Avenue. I look at it from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I look at it from Claymont, Delaware.
While Biden faces challenges in polling on the economy, recent surveys shows the majority of respondents support unions. An AFL-CIO poll found the most support among Democrats, but still significant approval among Republicans. Workers' votes can be key in Rust Belt swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Meanwhile, in the backdrop, the Hollywood strikes continue while the United Auto Workers and Big Three automakers are approaching a contract deadline of which Biden has said, quote, UAW deserves a contract that sustains the middle class. Haley Bull, Scripps News, Washington.
Well, car prices are already high, but a looming strike could drive prices even higher. Contracts between the United Auto Workers Union and Detroit's Big Three automakers are set to expire in 10 days. Union workers are calling on General Motors, Stellantis, and Ford to increase their pay, provide better benefits, and shorten their work week. But automakers argue those demands are unrealistic during stiff competition as the world shifts to EVs. If a strike against the Big Three lasts for just 10 days, it would cost the companies nearly $1 billion. And the Actors Union, in the meantime, might greenlight a second walkout, this time against major video game companies. SAG-AFTRA will seek authorization from its members to strike ahead of negotiations scheduled to resume later this month. The union is asking for an 11% retroactive pay increase for its video game performers, and it says that video game companies are offering nominal pay increases that aren't keeping up with inflation. The union is already on strike against major TV and film companies. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, flu season is right around the corner, and one group is looking to better understand how the virus spreads. Plus, for premature babies, breast milk can make a life-saving difference.
If you can donate, then do so, because there are a lot of moms that wish they could supply for their babies and they can't.
How mothers have been helping each other keep their babies healthy. And don't forget, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Do you have too much body fat? It tends to accumulate on your stomach, hips, and thighs.
Are you struggling to lose weight? Does it seem like no matter what you do, you just can't get rid of excess body fat?
Body fat builds over our midsection. Body fat increases from lack of exercise and poor diet.
The Obesity Research Institute has found the solution. It's called Lipozene. Lipozene is clinically proven to help reduce your body fat and weight. And to raise awareness about this weight loss breakthrough, the company is letting people try Lipozene risk-free for 30 days.
Now you can lose 4 times more weight. Just add Lipozene for only $29.95. Call right now and we'll double your order for free and ship it free too. And for a limited time, we'll double the size of each bottle for free. So now you have 4 times the Lipozene for just $29.95. Plus, you'll get Metabo Up Plus to help boost your energy and metabolism. But you must call.
Lipozene is clinically proven to help you lose body fat. In fact, a double-blind study showed that not only did participants lose weight, but 78% of each pound that was lost was pure body fat.
What's even more amazing is that people were not asked to change their daily lives. It's so easy. Just take Lipozene. That's it. If you're ready, then call the number on your screen right now. Lipozene is worth the price because Lipozene is clinically proven to work.
Now you can lose 4 times more weight. Just add Lipozene for only $29.95. Call right now and we'll double your order for free and ship it free too. And for a limited time, we'll double the size of each bottle for free. So now you have 4 times the Lipozene for just $29.95. Plus, you'll get Metabo Up Plus to help boost your energy and metabolism. But you must call.
Call 800-224-1751.
My anxiety became overwhelming. Like, I need help. I just found hers. Like, this is pretty incredible. Right away, I got matched with a provider. I noticed a huge difference. Medication brought me all back together. Get started today at forhers.com.
We're back. Jesse, for $500. Let's find out. Can you take it? You're gonna want this.
What?
Start the clock and go. Hair from the drain. My drain. That rap song you recorded in secret. Yikes. Ooh, salmon. We heard you're allergic.
I can't take it.
Oh, Mimi, you ready? No.
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
So it's still early, but the latest COVID mutation may not be as contagious as originally feared. The variant, known by the nickname Parola, first surfaced in late July, and right away, scientists sounded the alarm. And that's because of how different Parola is from previous strains. Like Omicron before it, Parola represents a genetic leap. But unlike Omicron, it may not be as deadly or as infectious. Lab tests out of China and Sweden show Parola appears to be a milder strain, but further testing is needed to be sure. And this month, more flu shots will be available, and experts are encouraging you to get yours right now. The flu season typically runs from October through May, and then it peaks in the winter. But exactly how the flu is transmitted is still not well understood. Scripps News national correspondent Maya Rodriguez joins us now live from Washington. So Maya, I understand that you spoke to the director of a major research project that's looking to better understand how the flu works exactly. What can you tell us?
Well, Veronica, believe it or not, there are still a lot of unanswered questions about how exactly the flu spreads. So now a group of researchers from across the country are working together to try and figure that out in the hopes of stopping the flu in its tracks.
In the controlled setting of this lab, scientists are zeroing in on what makes the flu tick.
I think the pandemic has really brought greater attention to this type of research and the need for it.
Lindsay Marr of Virginia Tech is the project director of Mitigate Flu. It's an $8.8 million nationwide project involving multiple universities, all working to get a definitive answer as to how the flu spreads.
Conventional wisdom about the flu is that it's transmitted when people cough or sneeze in your face, and it's these large wet droplets that carry the virus. It lands on you and you get the flu. But it turns out there's not a lot of direct evidence that supports that idea. That works.
So researchers set out to see what might actually be happening when the flu starts to circulate in a community, including looking at how well masks may be able to mitigate its spread.
What's new about this research is that we're bringing a really interdisciplinary approach to it, it's not just medical doctors, it's virologists, it's engineers who understand how viruses can move around in the environment, in the air and on surfaces.
Researchers say one possibility is that the flu is actually transmitted not just by large wet droplets, but by fine particles that can remain suspended in the air for a long time.
People get the flu when they're close to others who are infected, and I think we didn't realize that, oh, maybe people are also getting it when they're at a distance and they're just sharing air in the same room.
Doctors say that's why it's critical to make sure as many people as possible get the flu vaccine every year, which they say could have added benefits.
It's kind of like just keeping your immune system at its best and peak condition. So another good reason to get your yearly flu shot, because it might reduce those common respiratory infections.
Here's it just pure water.
Back at the Mitigate Flu Project, whatever the findings end up showing could potentially be used to bring about structural changes to how indoor air is handled in buildings, something that got a lot of attention during the pandemic.
We kind of accept respiratory diseases right now, like colds and flu, as a way of life, but maybe we don't have to. Maybe if we do start paying more attention to cleaning our indoor air, we could really reduce the burden that places on our health and society.
So that everyone can breathe easier.
Now, according to the latest CDC numbers, the vast majority of states are seeing minimal numbers when it comes to cases of flu, but there are some exceptions, all of them in the South. They're already seeing cases popping up in Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi. And already this season, Georgia is seeing a moderate number of cases, which is a bit early. Veronica.
It does seem like everybody is sick right now. Maya Rodriguez live for us there in Washington. Maya, thank you so much. So health experts say breast milk is always best, and it's especially important for premature babies. In Indiana, the milk bank feeds about 62,000 ounces of milk every month to meet the need. Meredith Hackler with Scripps News Indianapolis talks with a woman who's helping to save lives.
We ended up being here for 93 days, so 3 months. And it was very much a wake-up call of how many people actually go through this and how stressful it can be.
Emily Troyer's daughter was born prematurely at 28 weeks. At the time, she wasn't sure if she'd be able to produce enough milk to keep her daughter healthy.
With the NICU, it's very stressful. And a lot of time when you're stressed out, you can't produce, like it affects your milk supply.
Luckily for Troyer, she was able to produce enough milk for her daughter. Then, 6 months after having her daughter, she found out she was pregnant with her son. Soon, she was producing too much milk, so she immediately started donating it to the Milk Depot at Ascension St. Vincent Women's Hospital.
It makes me feel really good because we have somebody we know from college, my husband and I, whose son was born at 31 weeks. He actually developed NEC and passed away within 10 hours.
NEC stands for necrotizing enterocolitis. It's a common disease of the intestinal tract that premature babies are susceptible to.
Very premature babies are extremely at risk for, and breast milk helps prevent that. It also helps them to gain weight better.
St. Vincent Women's Hospital says that about half of all NICU babies will end up needing donated milk at some point of their stay in the hospital. That's why they say donors like Troyer are vital to their mission.
It takes over 1,000 new milk donors every year, which is a lot of moms helping other moms.
As for Troyer, she hopes sharing her donation story will encourage others to give back to moms who are oftentimes dealing with the most stressful time in their life.
I think people just need to realize like how important it is. Like if you can donate, then do so, because there are a lot of moms that wish they could supply for their babies and they can't.
In Indianapolis, I'm Meredith Hackler reporting.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, a recall notice that needs immediate attention from parents of young children. Also, what's behind a rash of recalls at Trader Joe's? Tamales are the latest in a series of products pulled off store shelves. We'll tell you more after this.
Are you over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days? I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Call now for this free book on maximizing your income in retirement. Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers from leading financial firm J.D. Mellberg. That's right, free. This book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we're about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known truths We believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity, and it's free. Call 800-719-5340. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched numerous products and summarized rates and benefits of annuities, all from Silac Insurance Company. Call 800-719-5340. That's 800-719-5340. Call now.
The Omaha Steaks Anniversary Sale is here. Right now, we're offering 50% off site-wide. The only number that hasn't changed is our 100% guarantee that you'll love every bite. And if you've never tried Omaha Steaks, save an extra $30 with promo code FIRSTTIME. Visit omahasteaks.com/TV today. Why wouldn't you want to save 50% on 100% satisfaction? Just a little bargain hunting wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
Tired of wasting your money on products that just don't work? We don't blame you. That's why Nugenix Total T lets you try before you buy. Just text BONUS to 369-369 to claim your complimentary sample. Why have millions of men already trusted Nugenix for a man-boosting increase in their testosterone levels? Well, it's a patented formula, so nothing else is like it. It contains testofen, a patented key ingredient shown to work in not one, not two, but 4 clinical studies. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand, and it's #1 at GNC and Walmart. But don't take our word for it. Prove it to yourself. Try before you buy. If it works, keep using it. If not, keep the sample and tell all your friends we're full of it. You've got nothing to lose, but you could gain energy, muscle, drive, even more passion. Text BONUS to 369-369. Do it now and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text BONUS to 369-369.
From every walk of life.
Oh my God.
These are the untold accounts. The voices breaking silence. Join renowned journalists and filmmakers for news stories every week.
I have to help expose that.
Is that a pro-life ethic?
It just don't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense at all.
Scripps News Showcase. Sunday nights at 9/8 Central on Scripps News.
Quick reminder right here, we'd love to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number's on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. There is an important product recall that parents of young children need to hear. 85,000 high chairs made by Tomy International have been having problems with the bolts that hold that seat in place. Over time, they can come loose, and nearly 3 dozen babies and toddlers have fallen out of their chairs as a result. The recall covering 2 models, the Boon Flare and the Flare Elite, which were sold between 2008 and 2017. If you have one of these chairs, please stop using it. You can contact the company for a free repair kit. Nearly 250,000 pounds of Banquet frozen chicken strips also being recalled because they contain pieces of plastic. The strips have use-by dates of December 11th, 2024 and January 1st and January 7th of 2025. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says that these strips should be thrown out or returned. At least 1 person has been hurt after eating a chicken strip with plastic in it. And you can find the lot numbers at the Agriculture Department's website. In the meantime, Trader Joe's is pulling yet another product from its shelves. The Texas Tamale Black Bean Tamales are the latest item to be recalled, as the Food and Drug Administration reports that it may include an undeclared milk allergen. This is the 6th product that the grocery store chain has recalled since July, and that has experts and consumers concerned over the number of items being removed from store shelves in just the past 6 weeks. Scripps News reached out to Trader Joe's for a statement, and the company had this to say, quote, "The close timing of these recalls is coincidental. We have a close relationship with our vendors. We will never leave to chance the safety of the products we offer. We pull the product from our shelves as soon as we are aware of an issue. Once we understood the issue, we notified our customers." And earlier this morning, Bill Marler, a food safety advocate and attorney, joined Morning Rush to discuss.
It's really very strange to have one store have so many recalls within a short period of time, and a variety of recalls from milk allergies to rocks metal pieces. I think it just underscores that Trader Joe's needs to take a hard look at its supply chain and its ability to police its suppliers.
We hear so much now about supply chain issues and workforce shortages. Could that be contributing to some of these recalls?
It's certainly possible, but stones in crackers, metal pieces, those are production problems that should easily have been caught at production. There's systems in place that should fix that. So there clearly was a breakdown in the production. The mix-up, having a milk allergen in a product, that can be deadly, as well as metal and rocks and food products that they're consumed. So I think they really have to take a hard look at their supply chain and really make sure that they're living up to their contracts, making sure that food safety is part of everything they do.
You said, I mean, the milk allergies, that could be deadly. So what should consumers look for when they get these recall notices, and how to tell what they should take seriously, and are there any recalls that can be kind of just acknowledged but not religiously enforced?
I mean, I think, I know it sounds, rocks and pieces of metal and allergens maybe not sound like a big deal when you think about it in terms of E. coli or listeria or salmonella outbreaks that cause immediate illness. But we've seen people die from allergic reactions. We've also seen the ingestion of foreign objects cause severe infections, where that piece of metal or piece of rock will poke through the small intestine and cause a very large infection. So I think consumers need to pay attention to all recalls. Sometimes they come at us so often, you can get kind of recall fatigue, but I think you have to take them seriously, especially for children, the elderly, people with immune compromised situations.
Because if you have a milk allergy, that's a huge concern to you or your child. So, we hear, like you said, recall fatigue a little bit. We hear about so many recalls in the news, but for people who maybe don't stay on top of the news cycle, or maybe a certain recall isn't as publicized as others, how can people stay on top of these recalled products?
The FDA has a recall notification website. Food Safety News is another great place to pay attention to recalls. And there's a website called eFood Alert that also has recalls posted daily. So the information's there. The media does a great job of getting that information out there, but clearly there's so many recalls coming at you sometimes, it really is hard to keep track. But again, if you've got kids in the house, elderly people, you're immune compromised, I think you ought to pay a little bit more attention than maybe all the rest of us.
That was food safety advocate and attorney Bill Marler on Morning Rush earlier. I'm Veronica Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out online. The address is scripsnews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including how family and friends are rallying around a Virginia deputy who's made it his life's mission to help others.
The man has been through a lot, and he doesn't have a negative bone in his body.
We're just trying to be more optimistic, and we're hoping for a miracle.
We're going to share his story of overcoming adversity and what's pushing him to face his newest challenge. Plus this.
I'm Joe St. George of the Drug Enforcement Administration in Washington. How long will the DEA take to review whether or not cannabis should remain a Schedule I drug in our country? How might it impact marijuana laws in your state? We explain next.
I'm Bethany Jones. This is my dog, Pepper. We've been using the Halo collar for about half a year. We looked at a bunch of different colors. I looked at Halo, but the neighbors moved their horses right into the field next to us, and she went chasing them. I got online and ordered it immediately. We want our dog to be able to run free, but also stay safe. Halo has been my life-saving device. My biggest regret is not getting it sooner.
Get the new Halo Color 3 today.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear. The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs, like a top frame from your favorite holiday. Or you can even turn your glasses into sunglasses. Every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-570-3208, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-570-3208, 800-570-3208.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Cruz. It's great to see you on this Labor Day holiday. Always appreciate your time. We start off right here with the Department of Health and Human Services recommending loosening restrictions on marijuana. But the final decision will come from the Drug Enforcement Administration. Deputy Political Director Joe St. George takes a closer look at how long the process might take and what the implications might be.
The federal government first classified cannabis, marijuana, as a Schedule I drug back in 1970 with the Controlled Substances Act. For years, it sat alongside heroin in our country as a Schedule I drug under federal law. Well, now the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, has a big decision to make. Do they keep cannabis as a Schedule I drug, or do they change it, impacting marijuana laws from coast to coast? The decision now in the hands of an agency that has been here before. In 2016, during the Obama administration, the DEA wrote this letter to two governors seeking to reclassify the drug. Marijuana will remain a Schedule I controlled substance, the agency wrote at the time. Of course, a lot has changed in the last 7 years. 23 states have now legalized it for recreational use. Minnesota, the latest, earlier this year.
It's certainly a big deal that a federal agency is finally admitting that cannabis does not belong on Schedule I of the Controlled Substances Act.
Morgan Fox is the political director of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. He says the fact that last week the Department of Health and Human Services recommended to the DEA a change is significant, but the recommendation it become a Schedule III drug doesn't exactly do a lot for cannabis users.
It would not have any sizable impact on the criminal justice aspects of prohibition.
Fox says the biggest impact would likely be on cannabis business owners who may be eligible for more tax breaks and perhaps some researchers. But the schedule switch would still make it illegal at the federal level. Fox says there remains big questions if the DEA will even go through with the classification change. After all, the agency has rejected it before, and it's why he believes Congress needs to step in.
The DEA could very well take their time on this, and historically they have taken years.
Is there frustration in the cannabis community directed at the Biden administration for how slow this is all taking?
We'd obviously like to see things moving a lot faster.
We did reach out to the DEA for perspective on how long their review might take. Officials got back to us saying that the process is beginning now and that they have nothing further to share. At the White House, the Biden administration not putting any pressure on the DEA publicly to act.
It's going to be an independent process. They're going to certainly use the evidence.
Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Hurricane Idalia, the Maui wildfires, and flooding in Vermont. Just a few of the disasters this country experienced this summer. Experts are saying climate change is the reason that natural disasters are becoming more frequent and more severe. And now they're predicting climate change will directly impact about 165 million people in this country in the next few decades. Scripps News correspondent Chris Conti shows us how the current environmental conditions have already pushed some Americans to leave their home state.
More than 40% of people in this country live in counties impacted by climate disasters. More Americans have tried to move away from the impacts of climate change, but they're finding out not many places are safe anymore.
Oh, well, it's a beautiful setting.
An exceptionally pristine summer day.
Have been cracking on the vine.
The kind Judith Somm has been waiting for this year.
Just too much rainfall.
She's tried her best to keep her garden in Rumney, New Hampshire growing. The rain hasn't quit. It's not that Judith doesn't appreciate the beauty of the White Mountains here, but there is someplace else that Judith and her husband Doug once called home.
I mean, loved it. I mean, really, I love the Sierras.
Reno calls itself Art Town now.
We first met the Somms in 2021. They had just moved to New Hampshire from Reno, Nevada to escape the growing threat of wildfires.
We plant these to kind of shade out the chard.
But this couple, both in their 70s, are now finding out that hardly any place in this country is safe from the impacts of climate change. Did you think coming to New Hampshire that you'd still be dealing with wildfire smoke?
No, we really didn't. What an eye-opener. I mean, certainly the bottom line is you can't escape climate change, right?
Over the summer, New Hampshire, like many states, was plagued with wildfire smoke from Canada. Then in July, devastating flash flooding hit this part of the country, leaving the Somms to wonder. No place is really safe anymore.
Well, it's frightening. You know, I think it's frightening.
It's like those recurring nightmares where you get out of one jam and then you turn around and there's a worse jam.
Every person is going to have to deal with the effect of climate change in one way or another and adapt to it.
That is James Shope with Rutgers Climate Institute. He foresees more Americans taking events like major flooding into consideration when relocating.
Every part of the country has its own unique challenges when it comes to climate change. The simple fact of the matter is it doesn't matter where you live, you're going to be facing some consequence of it.
By some estimates, close to 162 million people in the U.S. will experience a decline in their environment over the coming decades, from rising sea levels to fires to droughts. According to the UN, each year natural disasters force an average of 21.5 million people from their homes around the world. Many, though, just don't have the income or means to relocate.
When we first moved here and I was talking about climate change, my network of friends here said you need to tone it down. Now they're talking about it now, you know.
As for the Somms, they've taken steps over the years to make their home more sustainable, preserving rainwater, installing solar panels on their roof. Is this a moment for more Americans to just look and say, something is happening?
Mm-hmm. Somebody better wake up really fast.
Because they know firsthand that a changing climate is prompting Americans to move, just so they can live. Chris Conti, Scripps News, Rumney, New Hampshire.
An investigation underway into the cause of a massive oil spill in Port Manatee, Florida. Cleanup efforts continue for the third day after officials first responded to the spill on Friday. So far, crews have removed more than 7,000 gallons of the oil-water mixture from affected areas, and they're using 1,400 feet of floating barriers in order to contain that spill. It all comes as surrounding communities are still reeling. 4 astronauts are now back on Earth after spending 6 months on the International Space Station. They splashed into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, just after midnight. That capsule was traveling more than 17,000 miles an hour, and it used parachutes to slow its descent. During their stay, they oversaw more than 200 science and tech projects, and they handed off control of the ISS to 4 other astronauts last week. So despite one obstacle after another and a health battle, one deputy is still finding the time to give back.
I give that talk to the kids and I tell them the story about my son making a bad decision.
Straight ahead on Scripps Live, how one of his biggest losses is now helping him march forward. And a quick reminder right here, you can find our stories and much more online. Check us out at scripsnews.com. Also on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on Threads. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. What? I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
Tired of wasting your money on products that just don't work? We don't blame you. That's why Nugenix Total T lets you try before you buy. Just text BONUS to 369-369 to claim your complimentary sample. Why have millions of men already trusted Nugenix for a man-boosting increase in their testosterone levels? Well, it's a patented formula, so nothing else is like it. It contains testofen, a patented key ingredient shown to work in not one, not two, but 4 clinical studies. It's the #1 doctor-recommended brand, and it's #1 at GNC and Walmart. But don't take our word for it. Prove it to yourself. Try before you buy. If it works, keep using it. If not, keep the sample and tell all your friends we're full of it. You've got nothing to lose, but you could gain energy, muscle, drive, even more passion. Text BONUS to 369-369. Do it now and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text BONUS to 369-369.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
Are you over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days? I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Call now for this free book on maximizing your income in retirement. Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers from leading financial firm J.D. Mellberg. That's right, free. This book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we're about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known truths we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity, and it's free. Call 800-719-5340. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched numerous products and summarized rates and benefits of annuities, all from Silac Insurance Company. Call 800-719-5340. That's 800-719-5340. Call now.
Do you have an idea for a story you would like to see or a comment on our coverage you want to share? We want to hear from you. Call our Scripps News viewer hotline at 833-4-SCRIPPS. That's 833-4-SCRIPPS.
Well, the former lead singer of the group Smash Mouth has passed away at the age of 56. The band's manager said 56-year-old Steve Harwell passed away at his home while he was in hospice care. Harwell was the co-founder of Smash Mouth and was its lead singer until he retired in 2021. The group continues to perform with a new vocalist. Smash Mouth is known for the songs All Star, I'm a Believer, and Walking on the Sun.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville. That's where you are. Searching for my lost shaker of song. Some people claim that there's a world out of blame. And I know it's all you women's fault.
A snippet of Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. The music legend passed away on Friday at the age of 76. And we now know that it was from Merkel cell cancer, which is a rare form of skin cancer. According to the National Cancer Institute, only 1 in 130,000 Americans are diagnosed with the disease every year and is most often caused by exposure to the sun. Despite Buffett's 4-year battle, he continued to perform during treatment, and he played his last show, a surprise performance in Rhode Island, in early July. Well, cancer is taking a toll on a Virginia deputy who's dedicated his life to serving others, even in the face of setback after setback. Greg McQuaid with Scripps News Richmond shares what's pushing the deputy to march on despite devastating odds.
but I really enjoy it. I came here and it's family, right from the get-go.
Deputy Doug Jenks lives to serve others.
Yeah, it's priceless. I mean, you can't put a price on it.
The law enforcement officer, Navy, and National Guard veteran has been dedicating his professional life assisting friend and stranger alike for nearly 40 years.
It's just a satisfaction inside that, you know, when I came home at night, I know that, hey, I've helped the community today.
The Caroline County Deputy's current assignment, by far the most satisfying, but also the most trying.
I just started last October, but it feels like I've been here for a lifetime, the way the people treat me.
Doug shares advice with newly minted drivers about the dangers on the road.
The children come in, the kids come in to get the driver's license issued to them by the judge.
Doug's talks are always delivered with an air of sadness.
I give that talk to the kids and I tell them the story about my son making a bad decision.
The 57-year-old from Ashland is motivated daily by the one person he can't help. On April 25th, 2020, Doug and Karen Jenks' lives changed forever.
I don't know how it's been this long and we haven't.
3 years.
3 years.
It was the day they lost Logan.
But I know he'd be proud. I know he'd be proud of you and all of your accomplishments.
Their middle son was killed in a single-vehicle wreck in King William County.
You know, they all think that it's never going to happen to them until it does.
Logan was a passenger in a truck. He and the driver had been drinking. Both young men perished. Logan Jenks was just 20 years old.
When I feel like I need to go see my son, this is where I come to be with him because it's all that I have.
I feel like he hears my conversation, and sometimes I get an answer, sometimes I don't.
I'm done. Bye, baby.
The last 4 years haven't been kind to this father of five. Since 2019, he's lost a son, a grandson, his sister to COVID, his stepfather to pancreatic cancer, and recently Doug was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, a neurological disorder causing paralysis in the face. In June, Deputy Jenks was dealt another blow.
You never expect it, but the look on her face told us immediately that it was not good.
Doctors diagnosed Doug with pancreatic cancer, which has spread to his liver.
We're just trying to be more optimistic, and we're hoping for a miracle.
Stage 4, so it gave me a 50-50 chance to get past a year.
The deputy is undergoing chemo and on 11 medications, which is taking its toll physically and financially.
The man has been through a lot, and he doesn't have a negative bone in his body.
Colleague and fellow cancer survivor Sergeant Miles Turner marvels at Doug's will to push on in the face of so much adversity.
He's been through more in the last 4 years than some people will go through in a lifetime.
It's the drive that keeps me coming back.
Despite his latest setback, retreating is not in Doug's playbook.
It's been a very positive program. I've had a lot of positive responses.
The deputy is still working with teen drivers in between chemo treatments.
I can ask why me, but if I want to get better, I can't dwell on it.
This father doesn't want another mom or dad to endure what he and his wife do every day.
It's devastating. I'm still not over it yet. I mean, I think about him every day. Sure do miss him.
Deputy Doug Jenks, a man who dedicates his life helping others.
All right, buddy. I love you. Come back and see you next week.
Is serving and protecting the legacy of his late son as long as he can.
I have to. I mean, it's just something that's inside me that says you need to go give that talk.
For I Have a Story, I'm Greg McQuaid. For Scripps News.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, a closer look at the pros and cons of the commercialization of college sports. That's next.
This is Wise. 40 currencies, 150 countries, one account to take on the world. Take on Rio. Take on Rome. Take on work. And take on play. Take on this and this and spend, send, receive. Here, there, everywhere. Download the Wise app today.
Do you have difficulty hearing your TV? Or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from Nano hearing aids. Other hearing aids are expensive and cost thousands of dollars. But if you call now, you can get 2 Nano CIC rechargeable OTC hearing aids for less than $1 a day. Don't be fooled by overpriced hearing aids ever again. The Nano CIC rechargeable hearing aid is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. And they offer superior noise reduction and a tiny in-the-ear design that is nearly invisible. And best of all, they are incredibly affordable. Call now and get 2 Nano CIC rechargeable OTC hearing aids for less than $1 a day. Plus, get a free charging dock and your shipping is always free. But that's not all. Order now and get 1 year of Elite protection with loss and theft coverage absolutely free. That's a $79 value, yours free. And all Nano hearing aids come with a 45-day money-back guarantee.
Call 1-800-450-2129. That's 1-800-450-2129.
This is you. You've written a book. Congratulations. You're a writer. But wait, to be a true author, you have to actually publish your book. So the next step is to find a publisher or agent that shouts it out to the world that you're a real author. This is where we come in. Discover Publishers will help you find the right publisher to edit, illustrate, print, sell, distribute, and promote your book. We will match your needs with our list of qualified publishers and agents to find the right fit. And the best part, it's completely free. We connect publishers with writers just like you. We put you in the driver's seat as publishers rush to your door to get your book in bookstores. Publishers have specific strengths. We know them and will find the right ones for you. Don't run all over town. Make publishing houses come to you. DiscoverPublishers.com gets you free access to the leading publishers in the industry. Fast.
Call for your free publisher kits, 800-570-3208, and find the right publisher for your book. That's 800-570-3208, 800-570-3208.
For over 100 years, this light has shined. A beacon of the free American press.
Reporting from Ukraine, Scripps News.
And now, this light shines even brighter. Scripps News.
So Deion Sanders' first win as the University of Colorado's new head football coach has been silencing those doubters. Sanders led the Buffaloes into a 45-42 victory Saturday against 17th-ranked Texas Christian University, and his son was a huge part of the success. He broke several school passing records as the team's quarterback. This win is a big surprise, and Sanders took over a team that only won 1 game during last year's regular season. Sanders was previously the head coach at Jackson State University, where he led the team to win back-to-back conference titles. Congratulations. So college sports brings in billions of dollars in revenue, but this big business has been triggering some concerns. Sports contributor Paul Crane explores whether the commercialization of college sports is good for student athletes and for fans.
There's no denying fans love college football and basketball. More than half of Americans polled said that they were avid or casual fans of college football in 2023, according to Morning Consult. And Nielsen reports the March Madness basketball tournament drew 10 million viewers per game this year. But only in America are sports connected to institutions of higher learning must-watch events, raising the question, as college sports get increasingly commercialized, are they serving the best interests of players and their universities and even their fans? 2 big issues are at stake. The first, how pursuit of TV contracts are shaking up historic conferences. The NCAA earns more than $1 billion per year, mostly from television megadeals and marketing rights fees. The individual conferences earn even more. In 2020, for example, Disney signed a $3 billion contract with the SEC to broadcast games over 10 years.
A really large share of that revenue goes to pay coaches and athletic directors.
So we have coaches today in the United States that are making $11, $12 million a year.
But as schools pursue bigger and bigger TV deals, they are reshaping the very structure of college sports. Take the Pacific 12 Conference. In August, the Pac-12 lost 8 of its 12 schools. 4 will join the Big Ten, and 4 will join the Big 12. The other conferences had more lucrative TV deals. Stanford is one of the most successful schools in NCAA history and has sent the most athletes to the Olympics. But now its conference is on the brink of collapse. Paige Sinicki, a softball player with Oregon, which moved to the Big Ten, wrote, "It's unfortunate to hear that my senior year I'll be playing as far as New Jersey, Rutgers."
If we allow it to become more and more commercialized, and if we allow the regional conference system to fall apart, a lot of the kinds of attachments that people have had to college sports are going to dissipate.
The second big issue, should student athletes be paid?
It's always supposed to have been in the amateur model and provide a real education and provide real health care for the student athletes. Or does it say, let's give up? It's never really worked anyway. Let's pay these athletes.
The NCAA used to enforce a policy of pure amateurism. Its rules prohibited students from being compensated in any way. Many colleges even insist on one-year athletic scholarships that don't automatically renew. The Supreme Court decided in 2021 to allow students to profit from their name, image, and likeness, known as NIL. 32 states and the District of Columbia have now passed laws to regulate NIL, and the U.S. Congress has proposed legislation. The NCAA was slow to react. A lack of specific policies led to a great deal of initial confusion. Athletes have inked nearly 2,000 deals, according to a report by Sponsor United. Nearly half included branded Instagram posts to promote their sponsor. Livy Dunn, for example, is a gymnast at LSU who has turned her 15 million followers across social platforms into brand deals with Motorola and Viore.
The current NIL chaos means student athletes are left to fend for themselves. And those at the top of their game must figure out how to maneuver through a multiple of agents, collectives, and high-dollar contract offers, all while maintaining their academic and athletic commitments.
Some say allowing student athletes to profit off their own brand is insufficient. The only fair solution is to pay college athletes, says ESPN's Jay Billis.
Really, all the athletes are asking for is the same economic rights as literally everyone else gets in this multi-billion-dollar business.
Some feel that paying salaries to college athletes would benefit the revenue-generating sports, but harm the non-revenue-generating sports. Those sports are generally subsidized by the more popular ones at big schools.
The creation of an employee-employer model would significantly threaten this current dynamic and alter everything we know about how sports outside football and men's basketball are supported.
Zimbalist says college sports must not professionalize.
We need to reinforce the amateur model, the educational first model.
98% of Division I football and men's basketball players never play a game in the NFL or NBA, says Zimbalist.
What we need to give them is a robust education, and we need to take care of their bodies.
The debate continues across campuses while revenues rise. But the athletes and their fans know the money genie is never going back in the bottle. Paul Crane, Scripps News.
I'm Veronica Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us on this Labor Day. I always appreciate your time. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. And don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. If you're staying with us, we have much more news headed your way on Scripps News Live. I'll be back with you at 3 p.m. Eastern. See you then.